Welcome back to Coin Nexa Vault. Before we get into today's coins, I need you to understand something. The quarter sitting in your change jar right now might not be as ordinary as you think, because what we're covering today are two Washington quarters that have quietly become some of the most talked about finds in modern coin collecting, and I promise you, by the time we reach the final coin in this video, you're going to want to sprint to your coin jar and start searching immediately. The 1984D Washington quarter is one of those coins that rewards the people who actually bother to look closely, and most people never do, which is exactly why so many of these have been spent into oblivion without anyone realizing what they were holding. Here's the thing about 1984. The Denver Mint was operating at enormous production volume that year, cranking out hundreds of millions of quarters to meet demand. And when a mint is running that fast, that hard quality control becomes a genuine challenge. The result? A small but meaningful number of 1984D quarters made it out the door with striking anomalies, doubled die characteristics, and die fatigue errors that collectors now hunt with serious dedication. So here's exactly what you need to do. Pull out your 1984D quarter and flip it to the obverse, the side with Washington's portrait. Look at the word Liberty near the top of the coin. Now look at the date, 1984, positioned at the bottom left. On the most sought-after examples, you'll see a visible doubling, a slight but unmistakable shadow or split on the lettering, almost like the text is echoing itself. Then check the ear, Washington's ear specifically, because on certain confirmed double die obverse varieties, the detail in and around the ear shows a clear secondary image just slightly offset from the primary. If you see that, stop what you're doing because you might be holding something genuinely significant. Now, a perfectly ordinary 1984D quarter in circulated condition is worth face value. Nobody's arguing otherwise. But a certified MS-67 example graded by PCGS or NGC can command prices in the range of several $100s, and confirmed double die varieties in high mint state grades have sold for figures well into the thousands at major numismatic auctions. The key word there is certified. Third-party grading through PCGS or NGC is what transforms a promising coin into a documented, auction-ready asset, and that distinction matters enormously when you're talking about realized prices versus wishful thinking. The 1984D has a particular place in Washington quarter collecting because it sits at an interesting intersection. Common enough that examples still circulate occasionally, but rare enough in true high-grade and variety form that certified specimens generate real competitive bidding when they surface. Collectors who specialize in modern Washington quarters, and yes, that is absolutely a thing, treat the 1984D double die obverse as a genuine trophy variety, something you document carefully, submit for certification, and hold on to. That's the level of seriousness this coin commands among people who know what they're looking at. As always, the value of any specific example depends entirely on grade, variety confirmation, and professional certification, but the ceiling for the right 1984D is higher than most people expect. And if you thought the 1984D was worth your attention, wait until you hear what's coming next, because the second quarter in today's video carries a story that makes the 1984D look like the opening act. Next, 1981D Washington quarter, and this one hits differently because the early 1980s represented a genuinely transitional and turbulent period for American coinage, and the 1981D sits right at the center of that story in ways most casual collectors have never heard explained properly. Here's the contrarian take that serious numismatists already know. The 1981D is not a coin you dismiss just because mintage numbers look high on paper, because the survival rate of true high-grade examples from this era is shockingly low, and the reasons why are fascinating. In 1981, The Denver Mint was dealing with the aftermath of the transition away from silver coinage that had happened over a decade earlier, and the clad composition quarters being produced were susceptible to a particular kind of surface marking and bag damage during the counting and bagging process that absolutely decimated the population of pristine examples. Coins were literally being scraped and contact marked before they ever left the mint facility, which means finding a 1981 D quarter with truly original, undisturbed mint luster is rarer than the raw mintage numbers would ever suggest. So here's your visual assignment with the 1981 D, and this is specific, so pay attention. Look at the reverse of the coin, the eagle side. Focus on the area directly above the eagle's head, where the words United States of America arc across the top. On certain 1981 D examples with notable die characteristics, you'll find a subtle but real doubling visible in those letters, particularly in the word states. The S and T are the letters to watch most carefully. Then flip back to the obverse and examine the mint mark, that small D sitting just to the right of Washington's ribbon. Repunched mint mark varieties from this era, where the D was stamped more than once at a slightly different angle, are confirmed on several 1981 D varieties, and under magnification the secondary D impression is visible as a slight thickening or shadow on one side of the primary letter. That's the detail that separates a common circulated 1981 D from something a variety collector would pay real money to own. And speaking of real money, a standard circulated 1981 D quarter is worth face value, full stop. But the population of certified MS-67 and MS-68 examples is extraordinarily small, and when those coins appear at auction they generate the kind of price per unit numbers that make people do a double take. Certified MS-67 examples have sold for several $100s, and the handful of MS-68 specimens that exist in certified registries have achieved prices in the low thousands, because at that grade level the supply is genuinely that constrained. The 1981 D also holds a specific appeal for type collectors building sets of Washington quarters by date and mint, which means demand is consistent. There's always a buyer for a truly exceptional example, because the collector base chasing registry quality 1981 D quarters is active and serious. The historical context adds another layer worth appreciating. 1981 was a year of significant economic pressure in America, high inflation, rising interest rates, and a general sense of financial uncertainty that gives these coins a kind of time capsule quality that resonates with collectors drawn to the stories behind the metal, not just the metal itself. Every genuine high-grade 1981 D that surfaces in today's market is a coin that somehow survived 40-plus years without the contact marks, cleaning, and environmental damage that destroyed the vast majority of its siblings. And that survival story is part of what makes it compelling. Condition is everything, grade determines value, and professional certification from PCGS or NGC is the only thing that makes any of this actionable. But for the right 1981 D in the right condition, the numbers are genuinely surprising. If you've got a coin like any of these sitting at home, drop a comment and let me know. And if you enjoyed this, hit subscribe so you never miss the next one.